If only I could have the same guitar that guy has, then I'd be able to play. Look at this stupid mass-produced Fender. How can I play anything on this? What are you talking about? Tone isn't in the fingers. It's in the babinga and the locking tuners. Yes, I know you saw the thumbnail. I do have a boutique guitar. I actually have two. Yes, I'm a hypocrite. But here's the truth about boutique guitars. I have 5 points for you. The first is cost. Now, when you think of boutique guitars, you're probably thinking of $4,000, super high-end, really nice guitars. But that's not always the case. There's actually more variety in the price than you might realize. My number one electric is a Veritas Pro Series. Now, this starts at about $2,200, something like that. The custom line do go up to $4,000 and $5,000. But this guy, for everything that it packs in, is only $2,200, and it is a screaming deal at that cost, believe me. Now, I also have a Seventh Day custom telly. You can see it right behind me. These are handmade here in America, in Florida actually, and these start out at $1,000. So when you're considering purchasing a boutique guitar, you've actually got more options than you think, at the lower end, and the mid, and also the super high end. On the lower end, you've got builders like Seventh Day and Ricardo Sanchez, all the way up to the higher end being Sir, Jennings, Veritas, and so many more. But point number two is resale. Now, I am by no means somebody to focus on the resale value of a guitar when I buy it. I generally want to buy a guitar to play it and use it. But with custom instruments, you've got to do your research. Why? Just have a look at Reverb right now. My Veritas could actually sell for a lot more than I paid, $2,500 and up, because it's that good. Veritas is also a very well-known brand in the worship community, and it's very sought after. But my Seventh Day, that guy I bought off Reverb for $600, almost half of the initial investment from the person who bought it. Look, all I'm saying here is just do your research and know what you're getting into before you potentially lose a lot of money on a guitar that you may not like. On to point number three, playability. Now, in general, boutique and custom guitars are always going to play better than mass-produced instruments. So that means, in general, my Veritas or any Veritas is going to play better than a standard Fender. Why? Because more time can be dedicated to each instrument. My Veritas is my number one, not only because it looks better and it was more expensive, but because it feels and plays way better than any other instrument that I have. It does sound better, by the way. And honestly, I think this is the best reason to go with something boutique or custom because, in general, once again, it will feel better now when it's new, but also over time. Point number four, I hate this one, snobbery. Now, this one's pretty core to my beliefs, and in order to understand what I mean, you have to understand where I came from as a musician. I'm a worship guitarist, and I play at my church, and there are some very big YouTube channels dedicated to the worship guitarist, and that is an amazing thing. But they just love their Lambertones pickups through their custom Jennings Voyager, into their Tone-X pedals with their custom IRs. Do you get what I'm saying? Everybody has the same gear in this world. And church musicians pay more for their gear than I think anybody. But when you have just a few sources telling people what's good and what's not, everyone starts to sound the same. Everyone has the same instruments, the same pedal boards, the same patches. So when you're playing a single coil telly at church, you're on the outside. And it becomes more about having the right gear than improving your playing and developing your own tone. I literally once had somebody on Instagram ask me why I was playing a Korean-made PRS as opposed to my ultimate church guitar, my Veritas. But the snobbery is real and it has to stop. Not only for the good of the industry, the guitar industry as a whole, but for my personal sanity, please. Finally, on to point five, diminishing returns. I think everybody that researches guitars on YouTube knows what this means at this point, but let me go through it anyway. Do you think a $4,000 custom guitar is going to play better than a $400 Squier? Of course. But will it play 10 times better? Basically, the more money you spend, the less that money is actually making a difference to the quality and playability of your guitar. Now, that being said, my most expensive guitar is my favorite guitar, and it does play the best. But that's not because it cost more. That's because it had more time spent on it by the luthier, making it play perfectly and sound just right. This is time that mass-produced guitars by Fender or Squier or Gibson just can't have dedicated to them. The goal of mass production is to make as many instruments as possible while lowering the probability of having quality control issues. Whereas custom and boutique guitars, it's about raising the price so they can spend more time on each instrument to make it as good as it can be. And that costs more money to the consumer, but in the end, in general, makes a better instrument. I feel like most people believe that the more expensive and extravagant a guitar is, the better it's going to play. Where in reality, boutique instruments do play better, but not because of the reasons people think. It's because of the time dedicated to each instrument by the luthier. And it's so disheartening to me when I see people, even people I know, saving up for some super expensive guitar because that's the one they need to sound good, or that's the one that their favorite YouTuber plays. And don't get me wrong, having a goal or a dream instrument is a beautiful thing. I've still got a few instruments I'd love to own someday that are outside of my purchasing power right now. But on the way to getting that guitar, make sure you're continuing to improve your skills, developing your tone, getting used to that, and getting the most out of that Mexican Fender that you're using, and finding what effects and pedals work for you. Who knows? Maybe you'll find a new love for that $400 Squier that $4,000 custom just can't scratch. Do I believe boutique guitars are bad? No, I love mine. But does boutique guitar culture suck? What do you think?